Hey TypeScript engineers. Today's video is about how you can go about deploying JavaScript SDKs to NPM using Symmetric. This is a very exciting topic because JavaScript SDKs are a type of package that will really help you be able to build powerful web, mobile, and server applications. So what's a JavaScript SDK in the first place? It's really just a special type of package that helps other developers use your service from whatever Node.js environment that they're building from. You can create SDKs that target both web browsers and APIs. You may have already started using these yourself. At a high level, publishing SDKs is a bit involved, but you can really break it down into 5 tangible steps. The first is you need to create yourself an NPM account. You can do this as an individual, or you can optionally create an NPM organization. Either one of those is sufficient to host your SDK. The second step is to mint what's called an NPM granular access token. That's just a fancy way to let NPM know who you are when you want to publish a new version. Once you have your granular access token, you want to save it to your GitHub repository as a secret. This will let you actually publish new versions from a GitHub action. Now that you have all that set up, you cut new releases with NPM version, and when you do that, you're pretty much good to go. So all that is really exciting. Let's see what it looks like in practice. So what you're seeing here is my NPM account. This is a real world example of what you can go out and create on NPM if you want to publish, say, open source SDKs, or if you want to publish something for personal projects. You can also, for whatever company you're working on, create NPM accounts dedicated to that company's service. So I also have an NPM account for Symmetric called Symmetric Node. And this is the NPM account that publishes versions of Symmetric SDKs. The last thing I want to show you quickly is what an NPM organization looks like. And the way that you can tell whether you're looking at an NPM organization or an account is based on the URL. The NPM URLs show the tilde if you're looking at an account, but it'll actually say org in the title if you are looking at an org. And really, the main utility of an organization is that it helps you really easily collaborate with other folks who have NPM accounts, and you can scope your packages to that organization. Okay, so let's take a look at what some of these are. So there's an ES6 package in here on my personal account, an old project called Happy TypeScript, the CLI for that. The packages that we're going to talk about in today's demo are ergonomic. There are 3 of these right now on the account. There's one for universal environments, one for React, and then one for Node.js Express environments. Okay, cool. So now that we have a good sense of what NPM accounts are and what NPM organizations are, we can now talk about what it looks like to actually publish a package. So everything you're seeing here is actually publicly accessible. NPM has a concept of restricted access packages and public packages. And if you want to publish a package so that any developer can use it, you typically want to use a public package. So you can think about things like the Stripe SDK or things like React. Any engineer can go in to a Node.js environment, run npm install, and get that SDK or framework or whatever it may be. And so, speaking of installations, the most important thing to understand in order to deploy SDKs to NPM is the concept of a version. So everything in NPM is tagged by a version, and these are related to the concept of Git tags. And the way that you go about actually publishing these SDKs is that you cut releases. And there's a specific command in the NPM CLI called npm version. And what that does is it creates a special type of commit called a version commit. And that's the commit that you typically push to your remote and that's what gets published to NPM. So you can go look at all the versions. You know, you might have pre-release versions, you might have all types of versions, but each of them will get tagged and stored in NPM with a unique SHA, so that folks can just, you know, say npm I ergonomic, which is going to pull the latest version, or you can actually provide a version in your package.json. So cool. So this is the goalpost for us. We want to actually go about publishing these versions, but you don't want anybody to just be able to publish versions. I mean, that would be a nightmare. Imagine if some random developer could just come in and publish a bunch of versions. You'd have bots publishing versions. It'd be a nightmare. So the way that you get around that is you create access tokens. And so this was one of the steps in actually deploying an NPM SDK. You have to go into your NPM account and create access tokens. And the nice thing about access tokens are that you can create them in such a way that you can provide a expiration date to remind yourself to rotate them. And you can also set different scopes on them so that they can only do certain things. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So NPM wants to know the token name, the description, when does it expire. You can set different expiration dates. You can even add in IP ranges if you want to only publish from your VPN, for example. But what I really wanted to emphasize was the permissions and scopes. So you might say, I only want to have a token that will publish to ergonomic. And so when you create this token, it won't be able to publish to any of the other packages in your account, which is really nice. You might have, say, an engineer that you bring on who's going to help out with one package. You can create a granular access token specifically for him or her. Cool. So this is what granular access tokens look like. They're pretty sleek. Let's see. Yeah, let's dip out of here. Okay, cool. So then now that once you have your NPM account, you've got your access token, then it's actually time to publish it. So if you take a look at the actual source code, the easiest way to publish an NPM SDK is to just use a GitHub action and set up a workflow that will listen for commits to your remote. And then on each of those commits, it will publish the actual new version to NPM. You can get fancy and also have your workflow run NPM version. There are lots of different ways to go about it, but the most important thing to keep in mind is the authentication if you want to use GitHub Actions. And what you have to do is you have to set this value called node auth token as a environment variable for your workflow. And this is going to pull from a repository secret when you've configured it correctly. So what this is basically telling GitHub Actions to do is the following. It says, first, listen for commits on the master branch. Second, when you see that, run this job that's going to build the project and then publish it to NPM. So that's what this npm publish command does. And you can pass a access flag to let NPM know whether this is going to be a public or private package. Cool. All right. So with that out of the way, let's actually take a look at what some of those look like. So we have, let's see, version 0.2.13. As you can see, there was a workflow run that built the project and published it. So, oh yeah, well, we don't need to view all those logs, but you get the gist. So this happened 2 weeks ago, and what we'll do is we'll actually show what this looks like live, and we'll do something simple. Let's publish a new version and see what it actually looks like to cut a new release. So let's just do something simple, add a README to the SDK. Cool. So we'll close this issue from a code space. And while that's spinning up, the other nice thing about this that I want to emphasize is when you publish to NPM, it becomes really easy to help your project grow. I mean, almost everyone in the JavaScript ecosystem can take advantage of NPM from their environment. There are lots of new types of NPM alternatives out there, but typically if you're spinning up just a fresh JavaScript project, you'll have some type of access to NPM I. And that means that when you publish one of these SDKs, you have access to the entire JavaScript ecosystem. So that's a major benefit. Okay, cool. Now that we have this code space ready, let's actually write out a README. So, okay, let's just, for the sake of time, we'll have our good friend Copilot write us a README. Okay, let's see. Interesting. Whoa. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, so looks like I don't have Copilot chat. Let me quickly install that. Okay, so yeah, and then what we'll do is we'll close this issue and cut a new release, and then we'll see the updated value, or sorry, the updated version in NPM. So write a README for this JavaScript SDK that helps engineers learn how to use the package. Show the installation command with npm or yarn. Simple enough. Okay. So we'll let this wow. Okay, cool. All right, now it's kind of, it's doing its own thing, but you know. And we'll drop it in here. Oh, that's interesting. Let me actually just copy it. Okay, and I'll clean this up a bit. Well, yeah, we don't need a quick start for now. Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll just close the issue with this and cut the release. All right. Yeah, I'll add. Why not? Add the contribution. All right, cool. So with that, we're good to close the issue and then publish a new version. So close number 7. So we'll run all these pre-commit hooks. This project also has DocTalk installed, so we'll get a nice table of contents at the top. So that's pretty nice. All the tests passed. Everything's looking good. So let's take a look at the I'm going to zoom in. Let's take a look at these former commits. So notice this tag value here. This is what I referenced a bit earlier in relation to the actual version commits. And I'll show it in a bit, but it's important to note that having a tag is helpful for a lot of reasons. You can more efficiently search through the repository version history when you tag your commits. And it's helpful because it can also funnel into GitHub releases if you want to use that feature. But notice we saw this commit earlier when we were looking at the commit history, and now we'll cut a new release. So we use npm version. We'll just submit a patch. It's really, it's not even a patch, but that's fine. And let's use the no commit hooks. We don't need to run all those commit hooks again. And then when that's done, we're gonna push it and then also push the tags. Okay, cool. So we got a nice new version. If I run the git log one more time, we'll see that we've closed the issue and now we have a new version, 0.2.14. And if we go over to the actions, we'll see that this is automatically running. The workflow is automatically running. And it was pretty quick. It doesn't take a long time. But the npm publish command is going to actually package up all of the source code and publish it to npm. And it's going to provide whatever version that it detects in package.json. That's the version that npm will receive. So it's important to use git tags, but don't get them confused. The git tags are mainly used for searching through the GitHub repo. But the package.json version is the source of truth as it relates to the actual releases. So now if we come over here and refresh this, we'll see 0.2.14. And yep, published a minute ago. Cool. So now when someone runs npm I, they'll get 0.2.14. Folks who had 0.2.13 installed can get the latest by running npm update. They can update their package.json dependencies, or they can just, kind of hang around with 2.13. But now we can see we have a nice README on the page. You should probably do this when you create your SDK at the beginning. Yeah, this is nice. This isn't really what ergonomic does, but that's fine. You get the gist. Okay, cool. So with that, we've seen a couple different things. We've seen what an npm account looks like. We've seen how granular access tokens fit into this entire workflow. We've seen the npm version command in action and how that creates a version commit. And then when you push to the remote, we've seen publishing the npm via a GitHub Actions workflow run. So these when you use them in combination, it becomes really powerful. It's a nice technique to help you publish your SDKs and give other JavaScript engineers access to different functionality. So I'll close by kind of giving an example that might relate to your project. Let's say you're building, a fintech company, or if you're also building a dev tools company. A lot of times you will start with building an API, which is the fastest path to giving somebody access to either use the library that you're working on or interact with your service programmatically. But a lot of times people don't want to be writing fetch commands. You don't want people to have to run curl and do all these strenuous things just to use your service. And that's where things like npm come in. If you package up everything in a nice SDK, all people have to do is install your package, and then they can get the full range of what you want to help them do with your solution. So that's pretty much it for now. If you have any questions, feel free to hit up our Discord, post in the comments, whatever you like. And in the next couple of videos, we're going to talk about how to deploy Next.js web apps and deploy Express REST APIs. And we'll use similar techniques. In particular, we'll also see GitHub Actions in action. GitHub Actions in action. And we'll see how Symmetric makes all this really, really straightforward and simple. So thanks, everybody. Peace out.